Let's first talk about what is common in both these words, could and would. The one thing that is common in them is that both could and would can be used to talk about the past. Let me substantiate that with a few example sentences. The first one is, I can run a few kilometers without any break. So someone here is talking about his ability. So he says that he can run for a few kilometers without any break. So what tense is it? It is a present tense because he's talking about his ability at present, right? So it is a present tense. Now, if someone says, I could run a few kilometers without any break, it clearly means he does not possess that ability at present. So therefore, could here refers to the past. I could run a few kilometers without any break. Now, similarly, when we look at the use of would, we have two example sentences here. I know he will pass the exam. That's the future tense because someone is talking about a future possibility, right? I know he will pass the exam. Someone is sure about that. I know he will pass the exam. Now, look at this sentence. I knew he would pass the exam. That's the past form of the sentence. I know he will pass the exam. It's about a possibility in future, a possibility that this person is quite sure of. The second sentence is talking about his belief in the past. He was sure even in the past that he would pass the exam. So it's a matter of the past, his past belief. Okay. So I hope you understood the use of would and could in its past form. Okay. Now let's look at the use of could and would in possible situations and in imaginary situations. So let's check this sentence out. Miss Maya had said the question paper, the exam could be very tough. So in this case, we are talking about a possibility and therefore you're using could. Because Miss Maya has said the question paper, it is possible that the exam is very tough. The exam could be very tough. Now, are you sure the exam is going to be very tough? Well, no, but I'm saying it's quite possible that it could be tough. My boss isn't responding to my mails, he could be busy. This is a second example sentence. My boss isn't responding to my mails, he could be busy. Now, here again, you're talking about a possible situation. It is possible that because my boss is busy, he is not responding to my mails. Now, when we are talking about possible situations, we must use could and not would. So, in these two sentences, talk about possibility. Okay, this is in the context of possibility. In the context of possibility, one should not replace could with would. This is very important. A lot of us confuse it. If I give you, if I strike this off and if it's a blank in place of could, you shouldn't be writing the exam would be very tough. That will be wrong. Or he would be busy. When you're talking about a possibility, you should definitely use could and not would. However, if you're talking about the past form and if you're not talking about a possibility, then it's okay to use either of these modal verbs. So when we talk about imaginary situations, we must always prefer using would over could. For example, if I had a lot of money, I would retire early. It is okay to use if I had a lot of money, I could retire early, but it's always better to use I would retire early because you're talking about an imaginary situation. If Kishore worked hard, he would pass the exam. It's also possible that you say if Kishore worked hard, he could pass the exam. But like I said, in imaginary situations, it's better to use would over could. Therefore, would is used a lot more in imaginary situations. Now, when we talk about polite expressions, we should definitely talk about would and could. Now, let's talk about making suggestions. Let's suppose you're going out for dinner with your friends and you would like to make the suggestion that we could try Thai food for dinner. Now, my question is, can you replace the word could with would when you make suggestions? Instead of saying we could try Thai food for dinner, is it appropriate for you to say we would try Thai food for dinner? The answer is a simple no. When you are making suggestions, it's always right and it's always appropriate for you to use could over would. So the right use of the sentence is we could try Thai food for dinner. Now, talking about making offers. Would you like some coffee, please? Or will you say, could you like some tea? Or could you like some coffee, please? Well, that is wrong. When you make offers, you should always use would over could. Okay? So you shouldn't be asking, could you like some tea? Instead, you should ask, would you like some tea? Now, coming to the third part of it, which is making requests. When you make requests, which modal verb would you use? Could or would? Well, the right answer is you could use both. Let's look at the example sentences here. Could you please pass it on? It's also possible that you could say, would you please pass it on? It's also quite okay to say, would you please pass it on? Similarly, could you please open this door for me? Would you please open this door for me? But notice that when you use would, it's going to be very formal but polite, of course. So it is in very formal occasions that you use would. But you also need to know that using would is also a mark of politeness. Now, one very important thing that you need to keep in mind is you must have come across this phrase, would you mind, right? Would you mind opening the window, please? Now, that is a request. Now, can I replace would you mind with could you mind? Could you mind opening the window, please? No, because would you mind is a fixed phrase and the would in this particular phrase, would you mind, cannot be replaced with could. So when you make request, you could use both could and would, except for the phrase would you mind. So in the phrase would you mind, you cannot replace the word would with could. The fourth situation is when you need to ask for permission. Example sentences I've given here. Could I borrow your pen for a couple of minutes? Possible. You could also ask, would it be okay if I borrowed your bike for a couple of days? Now my question is, can I replace could with would here? Would I borrow your pen? Now if you want to use would, there's a different way of putting that. That is, start the sentence with, would it be okay? Or would you mind? Example sentences I've given here. Would it be okay if I borrowed your bike for a couple of days? Similarly, would you mind if I borrowed your bike for a couple of days? But what you need to note here is that the verb should be in past if you use would it be okay, would you mind at the beginning of the sentence. So here comes the activity time. I have 5 sentences for you. So with this you will be able to know if you have got the concepts clear. Let me read out the sentences. The first one is, dash you mind sharing your notes with me. Second, Prabha dash already speak 3 languages when I was 6. Third, if I became the Prime Minister, I dash make health services free for everybody. Dash, I use your laptop to send an email. Dash, you want me to give you a ride back home? Okay, now I want you to pause the video, work on these questions, and then we'll discuss the answers. Okay? Okay, so let's now check the answers. Now, yes, it's would you mind sharing your notes? Because, like I've already discussed, would you mind is a fixed phrase and could cannot be replaced within that phrase. Would you mind in place of would. Okay. Now, second is Prabha could already speak 3 languages when she was 6. This is in the past form, right? So it's could there. If I became the Prime Minister, I would make health services free for everybody. This is an imaginary situation, and in imaginary situations, one should prefer using would over could. Could I use your laptop to send an email? That is, could I use your laptop to send an email is you are asking for someone's permission, right? So there it's appropriate for you to use could instead of would. The fifth one is, would you like me to give you a ride back home? Why is it? Because you're making an offer, and when you're making an offer, it is always appropriate for you to use would instead of could. So with that, we come to the end of the session. I hope you like the session. I will meet you with a different topic on a different day. Until then, stay safe, take care, bye.